UDP server. A separate thread is started to run the start UDP server, which listens on port 9876 for UDP packets. UDP is a connectionless, in which it doesn't establish a connection for data transfer. It simply sends packets and the receiver must handle them. TCP server. The start TCP server is called in the main thread to listen for TCP connections on port 6789. TCP is a connection base, ensuring reliable communication between the server and clients. Datagram socket creation. A datagram socket is used to listen on the specified UDP port. Listening for UDP packets. A buffer of 1024 bytes is used to allocate to hold incoming data. Inside an infinite loop, while true, the server waits for UDP packets by calling UDP socket receive. Processing received data. The received data is extracted from the packet using packet get data and converted to a string. The server prints out the received data, which is sensor data, along with the address of the sender, which is packet get address, get host address. Error handling. Any exceptions encountered, such as network errors, are caught and printed using ePrintStackTrace. Server socket creation. A server socket is created to listen on a specified TCP port. Listening for client connections. The server enters an infinite loop while true to continuously listen for incoming TCP client connections. TCP server socket accept is a blocking call that waits for a client to connect. Once a client connects, it returns a socket object, which is TCP socket, representing the client connection. Handling the client connection. The server prints the IP address of the client using TCP socket get init address, get host address to lock the accepted connection. A new thread is spawned for each incoming connection using new thread. Receive log file TCP socket start. This ensures that the server can handle multiple clients concurrently without blocking the main server loop. Error handling. Any exceptions encountered, such as network errors, are caught and printed using ePrintStackTrace. Buffered input stream. A buffered input stream is used to create using the input stream from the socket. This allows for efficient reading of data from the client. File output stream. A file output stream is used to write the incoming data to a new file. The file name includes the current timestamp, which is new data get time, to ensure unique file names. Receiving data. A byte buffer is used to temporarily store chunks of the incoming data, which is 1024 bytes at a time. Inside a loop, the buffered input stream read buffer read data from the input stream into the buffer, and the data is written to the output file using file output stream write buffer 0 bytes read. The total number of bytes received is tracked with the file size variable. Completion. Once all data is read, the method prints the total size of the received log file along with the client's IP address. The connection, which is socket, is then closed in the finally block to ensure proper resource cleanup even if an exception occurs. Error handling. Any exceptions encountered, such as network errors, are caught and printed using ePrintStackTrace.
Import Java Net Datagram packet used to represent a data packet sent or received via UDP. It holds data, the destination address, and the port number. Import Java Net Datagram socket refer a socket that facilitates sending and receiving datagram packet. Import Java Net Init address used to represent an IP address. Import Java util random used to generate random data or numbers, potentially for filling the packet with data. Server address refers to the address of the server set to localhost in which device communicate with a server running on the same machine. Server port refers to the server port number in which IoT device used to send or receive a data. Interval used to determine how frequently the device performs an action such as sending data to the server. Datagram socket new datagram socket used to create a new UDP socket for sending data. Inet address server address inet address.get by name server address used to resolve the server address. Random new random used to initialize a random object to generate random values likely used for simulating data to send to the server. While true used to create a loop in which sending sensor data continuously until manually stopped. String sensor data temperature plus 20 plus random next in 10 plus C plus humidity plus 40 plus random next in 21 plus % used to generate a value for temperature and humidity. Datagram packet new datagram packet buffer length server address server port. A datagram packet is created to hold the sensor data and specifies the server address and port where the data will be sent. Socket send packet used to send the packet to the specified server. System out print line send sensor data plus sensor data used to print the sensor data to the console. Thread sleep interval used to ensure the sensor data is sent at regular intervals. Catch exception E used to catch any exception that occurs. E.print stack trace used to print the detail of the exception, including where it occurs for debugging purpose.
Import Java I/O buffer output stream. Used when you want to send data over a stream such as network connections or writing to a file. Import Java I/O file input stream. Used when you need to read a binary data from files such as an image, video, and others. Import Java Net Socket. Socket known as a network communication, where client connect to a server to exchange a data. Public class client used to name a file name. Private static final string server address localhost. Private means variable only accessible within the client class. Static means variable belongs to the class itself. Final is a keyword where makes the variable a constant, which value cannot be changed. String server address localhost defines the constants that holds the address of the server. Private static final in server port 6789 defines the port number where server is listening to an incoming connections. Socket new socket server address server port used to establish a connection to server at specified address. File input stream new file input stream used to open the specified file path and read the contents as a stream of bytes. Buffered output stream new buffered output stream. Socket get output stream used to wraps the socket's output buffered output stream to efficiently send data in chunks over the network to the server.
Byte buffer new byte 1024 used to create a buffer of 1024 bytes to hold chunk of the file data being read. In bytes read, used for variable store the number of byte read in each iteration, while byte read fish read buffer exclamation -1 used to continuously read chunk of data from the file into the buffer. The loop continues until the end of the file is reached when fish read return -1. Both.write buffer 0 byte reads used to write the chunk of data stored in the buffer to the network socket, sending it to the server. It only writes the number of byte read, which could be less than the buffer size for the last chunk. System out print line log file send used to print a message once the file is fully sent. Catch exception E used to catch and handle any exception that might occur during file reading or network transmission, printing the stack trace for debugging. Send log file device log.txt used to invoke the send log file method passing the file path device log.txt and used to read the file and send its content over a network connection to a server using the socket defined earlier.